great to be at Trump Tower. It's great to be in a wonderful city, New York. And it's an honor to have everybody here. This is beyond anybody's expectations. There's been no crowd like this.
Greetings. Thanks for coming back to the show. As you can see, today I am dressed up in my respectable persons. Even though God's a creator of man, not persons. I don't even think God's a respecter of persons. In fact, the Bible tells you not to judge a man by his persons. Interesting. Anyways, this is kind of a special video. I'm going to have to get it out. I don't know if YouTube's going to take it down, so I might have to republish it if YouTube does take it down. If I do, you're still going to know that I got it out before December 14th because I'll leave the timestamp from my computer on when I'm actually making this video. So the reason it's important to make this video before December 14th is because personally, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not a fortune teller or anything like that, but I don't believe they're going to have the Electoral College on December 14th. And I don't know how they're going to postpone it. I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that they've been playing a whole lot of chicanery. And honestly, I mean, I'm sure the people who watch this channel know I don't have any skin in the game. I don't care who's president because it's my personal opinion. We shouldn't vote for a president. I'll tell you, when I was about 10 years old, I was in elementary school, and we had something called the student body president, or the student body government. And I remember when I was in 4th grade, there was this girl running for student body president, and she said she promised us that we would have Kool-Aid coming out of the water fountain. I mean, come on. What 9, 10-year-old isn't going to vote for Kool-Aid coming out of a water fountain? Do you think we ever got Kool-Aid coming out of our water fountain? And that's probably all I ever needed to know about voting and how voting worked. Although, when I grew up, I still, I grew up in a family. You don't vote, you don't have a voice, you don't have a voice in politics at the dinner table, so of course I voted. I'll even tell you, Barack Obama was the last individual I voted for back in 2008. Because I believed in hope and change. I believed in hope and change. But that was the last time I ever voted. And when people tried pressuring me to vote for Obama in 2012, here's what I told them. I said, well, what did Obama promise us? He promised us some type of foreclosure relief for people. Did we get it? No. No, what else did he promise us? He promised us tougher rules on the revolving door of lobbyists and politicians. Did we get that? No. No, not even after his 8 years. He promised us that he would cut health insurance plans. Did we get that? No, not even after 8 years. In fact, it went up. In 2008, when he was elected, the yearly premium of insurance plans was $12,680. In 2016, when he left office, it was $18,142. Because, well, the people who put presidents into office, they just don't care about money. They just don't care. And here's a presentation from the men who built America. I'm sorry about the quality, but let's check it out. I would have re-recorded it, but they took it off the internet. I guess for the same reason they took this down. Anyway, it's fair use. I'm just using this for education, and it's political. Free speech.
And to take the fight to the country's elite.
See what happens.
The great combinations of capital have encroached upon the rights of the masses. No man can earn $1 million honestly. Republicans endeavor to overthrow and discredit all who honestly administer the law. and to allow every wrongdoer to operate unchecked as long as he has enough money. I will tear down these trusts. Do you hear me, Carnegie? Do you hear me, Rockefeller?
Brian's emergence is the biggest threat the Titans have ever faced. He promises to dismantle their companies and to not rest until they're behind bars.
This is William Jennings Bryan at a recent Democrat rally. He's an enemy of the gold standard and an enemy of big business. What do you think?
The Republican Party has a good candidate.
No. We have to buy our own president.
When you have, what relatively speaking is an unlimited amount of money, you can pay people to do almost anything for you.
And they're about to use it.
Much appreciated. This is McKinley's speech that he'll be giving at the Republican convention. Make sure he sees it in time. Understood.
Rockefeller, Morgan, and Carnegie each give over $200,000 to McKinley, the equivalent of $20 million today.
If they were talking about that back then, the men who built America, they're basically bragging about buying the presidency. Do you think people like that, once they've achieved some sort of power like purchasing the presidency, and then they're bragging about it on the History Channel, do you think they stopped doing that? You think that that stopped at some point in time? And if you think that stopped at some point in time, when do you believe that is? When? I mean, comment down below. I'd really like to know. I really would. What else did Obama say he would do? He said he'd bring Democrats and Republicans together. He didn't do that. He did not do that. What else did he say he would do? He said he'd be a peaceful president. He even won the Nobel Peace Prize. I think maybe even before he got into office. I don't remember. That was a long time ago. He expanded the wars. He even got criticism for drone striking an American citizen. And they tried justifying it. They tried justifying it. What else happened? Oh, Edward Snowden came out. And if you followed the Edward Snowden story, he waited until 2013 to see if Obama would do something about it after he got reelected. He came out because he figured Obama would not do anything about it, because he saw the exact opposite working inside the agencies than what was going on in the public news. You think that's gotten any better? You think you have more privacy? What a joke. What a joke. Well, let me tell you something. You want to know the last time people voted to get more rights? You want to know the last time that happened? I would too. So if you get that answer, bring it to me. Because I study a lot of history and I've never seen people get more rights by voting. They might have had a good leader. They might have had a good ruler for a little bit. I've never seen them actually get more rights. And if they do, if they perceive that they got more rights, it's not actually rights, they're privileges. They're giving you privileges. Every time the government says that they're giving you a right, no. They're giving you a privilege. They're recognizing a right that you already had. Because who gave them the power and the authority to govern you anyways? Oh, you did. You did. That's why in every state constitution it says, it's your power. It's your power, because you have to believe in them. It's all about governmental worship. So let's take a look at Trump. Let's take a look at Trump's presidency. What did he say he would do? He said he would bring back manufacturing back to the United States. Did that happen? No. That didn't happen. Appoint a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton. What happened to all these arrests, these mass arrests that the people from the right kept talking about. Oh, Trump's gonna mass arrest people. Even when the coronavirus started hitting, oh, the coronavirus is hitting and they're making us to stay home so that they can have a cover for this mass arrest that's about to go on and happen. Okay, sorry. What else did Trump said he would do? He said that he was going to start a $20 billion fund so that you could choose where your kid goes to school, so that schools would have competition with each other. The only problem is that's never going to work out, because if you start having schools have competition with each other, they're going to have to actually start producing a product like education. Ha! I mean, come on. At least when my parents were in high school, they still had civics classes. Now they give you social studies. What a joke. What a joke. And you know, my son, he's a little man in training. My little sunshine. He's learning about separation of powers. You know, they tell him there's the judicial branch, there's the legislative branch, there's the executive branch, and they're all supposed to be separate powers. See, we don't really have separation of powers anymore. We have separation of parties.
You know, where we first come in together as Democrats and Republicans, immediately, okay, Democrats go this way, Republicans go this way, immediately separated. And what we're told right off the bat is, look, this is about getting wins for our political party. And if you work with a Republican, then that's going to hurt the party.
We have separation of parties. And guess what? It's only for us out here in the public. We're all like, blue, red, blue, red. Throw up my gang signs, blue, red. Gangster crip, blood crip, I don't know, something like that. But let me tell you something. The people actually wearing these colors and sitting up in those offices, they don't care. They don't care. You got a Democratic governor in North Carolina, let 3 boys off on rape. You got a Republican district attorney, let a rapist walk in North Carolina. You got a Republican lieutenant governor and a Democrat attorney general who won't do anything about it. They seem to work real well together when they're taking away your rights. Both Democrats and Republicans supported the Patriot Act. Both of them.
This clown show of an impeachment. What have they been doing that we haven't noticed? Guess what? They reauthorized the Patriot Act. So Trump is supposed to be this existential threat. And, well, here's this guy, Evan Greer, says, wow, House Democrats are ignoring civil liberties and including a 3-month straight reauthorization of the Patriot Act in the continuing resolution. Very cool way to resist Trump by ensuring he continues to have terrifying authoritarian surveillance powers. That's how you resist Trump, by giving him authoritarian surveillance powers. That's how they do it. Buried in a stopgap government funding resolution unveiled by House Democrats Monday in a provision that would reauthorize the notoriously abusive Patriot Act for 3 months, a move privacy advocates warn would ensure President Donald Trump's administration holds on to terrifying authoritarian surveillance powers. When the Patriot Act surveillance authorities were initially enacted, they came with a sunset clause to safeguard against the exact scenario where we had an authoritarian, racist, openly fascist president. And yet, here we are, and top Democrats are supporting its reauthorization. While the Patriot Act provision received virtually no attention in the media, reporting on the continuing resolution in NPR, Political, Roll Call, and CNBC did not mention it. Right, they're doing it right now. Well, you see.
Well, they're cheating in plain sight now.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would just say about, you know, I always say once they take your rights away, they're not giving them back.
Right.
And this is the evidence. Both sides of the aisles.
Both of them. Think about that. And all you can do is vote. Oh, it's going to get better when the next guy's in. What else did Trump say he would do? He said he would cancel all funding for sanctuary cities. Did that happen? No. He said he would enact term limits. I'll enact term limits because we shouldn't have senators up in Congress and the Senate. We shouldn't have the House there for a lifetime. And he's right on that. In every single early constitution, they said change your legislatures often. Frequently vote so that you're recycling people. You know, back in Athens, they used to have a system of picking legislatures that was a lottery. That's what it was. It was a lottery. Oh, hey, look, I get to go be a legislature for 2 years. An Act 5-year ban on White House and congressional officials lobbying. Never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. Do you think the people who are paying for the party are gonna say, hey, we're gonna quit paying for this party and just trust you guys to do whatever we want all the time? You think Wall Street's gonna do that? Because whenever something happens on Wall Street, guess who pays for the bailout? Guess who pays for the bailout?
Not in every way, but some pretty far left policies. Obviously, Obamacare is the biggest part of that, but take the stimulus. Instead of stimulating, say infrastructure spending, for some reason we keep voting and voting and voting for more infrastructure spending, whether it's with Obama or Trump, and we can never ever get it. As we see with Trump, it's the industrial Midwest. It is the manufacturing base of America that has been left behind, forgotten, crushed. Their salaries are going down. You know, construction workers in California, they made more, not even counting inflation, they made more 15 years ago than they do today. That's even skipping inflation. I mean, by like half. And does anybody speak for them? Does anyone care? Oh yeah, every politician says, I'll do something great for the economy, and then more spending for government workers. So that was the annoyance with the stimulus bill. The bailouts, I got to say, I mean, I think you can see from votes on some of that, both under Bush and under Obama. Both Republicans, elected Republicans and Democrats, are fine with bailing out the rich. I'm not. I mean, Wall Street, you made your bet. If those bets had gone well, I didn't get to share in the profits. But oops, they F up, and I have to share in the losses, and every American does. I mean, it just burns up ordinary people, and I don't think this is... I mean, maybe it's a right-left thing, but I don't think it is. It is the forgotten man thing. It is just ordinary middle-class people thinking, I can't get away with that. Oh my gosh, we are run by an oligarchy. The rich and the powerful get away with anything. So
I don't wish to pay for it either. And you know what? I don't care. Because I'm not going to participate, just like I talk about in my other videos. Before, you used to have to pay taxes. You used to have to want to pay taxes to be able to vote. That's how they got your participation, because it's all about consent of the governed. And you give your consent when you vote. That's all you're doing. You're giving your consent. Whether your candidate wins or the other candidate wins, you're giving consent to be governed. To be governed. And this is kind of interesting, because let's see something that Obama said in his farewell speech about the rights of self-government. Let's check this out, like the thing.
Now this is where I learned that change only happens when ordinary people get involved and they get engaged and they come together to demand it. After 8 years as your president, I still believe that. And it's not just my belief. It's the beating heart of our American idea, our bold experiment in self-government. It's the conviction that we are all created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's the insistence that these rights, while self-evident, have never been self-executing. Not that our nation's been flawless from the start, but that we have shown the capacity to change and make life better for those who follow. Yes, our progress has been uneven. The work of democracy has always been hard. It's always been contentious. Sometimes it's been bloody.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. We have the right to self-govern. I mean, obviously, if we give them the power to govern us, we obviously had that right before we gave it to them. It's simple logic. Simple. And Trump's biggest hoorah, his biggest, I will do this. This will be the Kool-Aid out of the water fountain if I, Donald J. Trump, become president of the United States. I'll build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. But guess what? He didn't build the wall and Mexico didn't pay for it. And, Donald Trump, he's such a good businessman. He might have been able to get his own contractors, but most of the time he got contracts with people, he never paid them off. In his private life. What kind of honest man does that? What kind of honest man says, I'm going to contract with you for business because I'm such a great businessman, and then I'm going to try and get out of paying you any way I can? It's absurd. It's absurd. Well, let's hear what Anne has to say about it. Let's check this out.
No strong position. Build the wall. Build the wall.
But I'm talking about here.
I know you are. I'm saying build the wall. You can try to get me to say something else. I don't really have a position on what you asked me about. The only position I have is build the wall.
So
you wouldn't have to go through this if you had kept your #1 campaign promise. Build the wall.
It's not going to be in the funding bill.
For the third time.
For the third time.
Ball and pocket. What was going to happen? If you don't surround yourself with people who know how to get this done, you're going to be lied to. You will have bureaucrats saying, oh, you can't do that. They'll make the wrong arguments in court. They'll make the wrong arguments on TV, and you won't get any of it done.
Take place in a way that would hold up in the courts.
That's almost verbatim what I predicted would happen if he didn't hire the right people. This is what they'll tell you, Mr. President. Oh, we can't. There's a court ruling against that. Oh my gosh, it is so easy to stop something if you don't want it done, and the entire bureaucracy doesn't want it done. Like I say, it would be tough even for Reagan to accomplish his agenda if he didn't surround himself with people who knew what they were doing. Tough, but possible. With someone who himself has no idea what's going on and no particular strong beliefs that it should be done, not a chance.
Whew. He should have put people into positions that actually knew how to do their job. I actually wish that most of the government would do that. They seem, I think they think we all believe they're incompetent and we're just okay with it. I don't know. There's one promise that I do feel like Trump kept his promise on, so I gotta bring it up. I gotta bring it up because give credit where credit's due. I just don't believe that he kept this promise the way that Americans thought he was going to keep it. He promised to drain the swamp. To drain the swamp. He made everybody believe, the swamp he was going to drain was Congress. 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 Sexual commerce. So this comes from Fire in the Minds of Men. And it's talking about the French Revolution and how they got the French Revolution to happen. The terminology used to characterize factions within the assembly revealed a thirst for the spattle sanctification of immaterial ideals. Legitimacy was identified with a physical location, right or left, mountain or plain. The middle position in the assembly between the two extremes became known as the swamp. Occupied by those unfit for either land or sea, one of the earliest historians of the revolution characterized the swamp in polarized terms that anticipated later revolutionaries' denunciation of the center as unprincipled, opportunistic, and lacking the conviction of either right or left. Between these two extremes, men of secret votes and silent cowardness stagnate, always devoted to the strongest party and serving the powers that be. The place occupied by these unriches is the convention was called the swamp. It is called the center in modern assemblies. It's called being a moderate, being not too far right, not too far left. And what Trump has done is you are either right or you are left. And there's nothing in between. There's nothing in between. And it's kind of hilarious because the actual data shows that more voters are independent now than they were. They're claiming to be independent. Extremists tend to share a common opposition to moderation that was more intense than their opposition to one another. This attitude was a legacy of the Revolutionary era and its basic drive toward radical simplification. Moderate positions tended to complicate political calculations, and they inspired a special contempt among activists on both sides, which is to moderate what impotence is to chastity, either left or right, mountain or plain, was preferable to the swamp, or moderate center in the National Assembly. So the swamp was everybody in between the far right and the far left. And they have since been drained. And it's really kind of funny because Donald Trump doesn't really have a lot of loyalty to people. I mean, look, he didn't pay off his contracts when he made deals. He ran as a Republican. He was a registered Democrat from 2001 to 2009. Let's see what Ann has to say about his loyalty.
Well, I'm not a Democrat, so I can't speak to the loyalty of Democrats, but my impressionistic view is that Trump is the most disloyal person I've ever seen. No, in fact, he doesn't give interviews to Breitbart, the website that supported him when Fox News was bashing him night after night after night. He does not give interviews to Daily Caller. He has absolutely no loyalty to anyone but himself. And if you happen to be a TV talk host who's going to stick your nose up his butt every night, yes, he'll pat you on the head and give you interviews. But in terms of rewarding the media that supported him, oh my gosh, he's disloyal. He calls Maggie Haberman of the New York Times every day. Why was he giving that interview to Lester Holt where he said, I was going to fire Comey anyway? Why are you talking to Lester Holt? All he wants is for the mainstream media to love him. It's kind of cross-messaging when you're telling your supporters it's fake news, it's fake news, it's fake news, and all you want is praise from them, other than Hannity and Fox and Friends.
Let's see what Steve Bannon has to say about Ann, because I really like Steve Bannon. Without Steve Bannon, it was very likely that Trump would have never been elected in the first place. I think Steve Bannon's an intelligent individual. He went to Harvard. And the charges on him are completely trumped up.
Ann Coulter called the president an idiot over his stance on the wall. How do you think this plays with
In my
his
opinion,
base?
I've looked into it.
Well, I think the base is bifurcated too. I think there is a section of the base that's quite concerned about what was signed in this appropriations bill. You know, you have this thing about the unaccompanied minors that is going to be quite controversial about whether there was an amnesty granted or not. There's also these issues about what local authorities, what types of power they have over to actually stop, or what types of consultation they have, rights they have with the chief executive over actually building the wall. So I think we'll have to see all that. You know, look, Ann provides a function. She is actually out there as kind of the a spokesman or someone, and she's doesn't play by the Marquis of Queensberry's rules. She's very, she's very pointed in how she says it. I know she supports the president, but in this regard, I think she brings up some good points that the president, and particularly the staff around him, I'm not so sure he was that well served in these negotiations about the details of what was actually in the immigration part of this. And I think Ann's done a good job of trying to bring those up so people can understand it. It's not that people, the base, don't support the president. But remember, the president came with an agenda. That agenda was dealing with mass illegal immigration and also dealing with legal immigration. That's what supporters want to see and want to make sure that he's focused on it to the degree they can help him forward that agenda. So I wouldn't take this personally from Ann Coulter. I actually think the president should look at that as something that's trying to be constructive and trying to help further his agenda.
And in the middle of doing this, I also saw Ann talking with Dennis Prager. You know Dennis Prager? I find him kind of funny. I heard him in a speech one time. He was talking about, he debated a liberal and he knew he won. And the way he knew he won was because by the time he got home, YouTube had already taken the debate down. And I was like, oh, that's funny. That's hilarious. And I don't know if he was serious about it or if it was just a joke, but I thought it was really funny. Anyways, let's hear what he has to say.
Donald Trump was the only person, the only politician who said he'd get rid of it. Then he gets to office and hires Gary Cohn from Goldman Sachs. Oh, no, we need to keep this loophole. I mean, that's just indicative of him turning his back. When he got... the day he was elected, I never thought I'd see this day. We have a president of the United States who got elected without a penny from Wall Street. He owes them nothing. And what was his position? I know, let's turn the keys of the kingdom over to Wall Street. Well, I shouldn't be bashing him. There's still time to vote. The other side is a disaster. I'm terrified of the identity politics we're going to have. I'd love to see the media weep. They have been absolutely outrageous.
I did not know, to be perfectly honest, I did not know the corruption at the highest echelons of the American government until Donald Trump. The FBI is corrupt. The CIA is corrupt. The bureaucracy is corrupt. The State Department is corrupt. I did not know that.
Yes, I agree. The swamp is a real concept.
See, I think that's real interesting because he didn't know how corrupt the entire system was before Trump got into office. And I would say that a lot of people didn't. Like, people talk about waking up. I've just always seen how the government operates. It seems like it's front and center in my mind all the time. That's probably why I've taken such an interest to find out how good government operates. It's probably why I'm offering it for free. And just follow the channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Talk with somebody about it. Because a lot of people in society, they blame Trump for fake news and the fake news that's going on. I hate to tell you, but listen to Obama.
Our vulnerability to Russia or any other foreign power is directly related to how divided, partisan, dysfunctional our political process is. That's the thing that makes us vulnerable. If fake news that's being released by some foreign government is almost identical to reports that are being issued through partisan news venues, then it's not surprising that that foreign propaganda will have a greater effect, because it doesn't seem that far-fetched compared to some of the other stuff that folks are hearing from domestic propagandists.
You're either listening to their propagandist or our propagandist. And the thing that's so hilarious is they both sound the same. How could anybody tell any difference? They both sound the same. When foreign propaganda sounds so much like our own propagandist, how would people be able to decide or decipher the two? And it's so partisan. It's so partisan. Now, let's listen to Joe Biden talk about voter fraud.
Secondly, we're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our administration, the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
And I know what people are going to do. They're going to say, oh, I fact-checked this. That was taken out of context. Man, I watched the whole video. It wasn't taken out of context. But yeah, I do believe that he didn't exactly mean to advertise it that way. I do believe that he was trying to talk about something else and was just confused. Which means, in my opinion, he's probably not qualified. I don't think Trump's qualified either. I don't think Obama's qualified. I don't even think the American people should be making this decision. Because the only reason we make this decision is so that when something goes wrong in the government, they can blame it on the president.
Until they get in there, can you even have an idea of how impossible a task it is to be in control of the economy, the environment, the infrastructure, the military, our position in the world? It seems like the most insane duty to require someone to run all those things, to be aware of all those things, to be responsible for all of the successes and all of the failures.
Yeah.
Instead of the people who actually enact government, the legislature. The only reason I believe they let us vote on the president is so that they have somebody to blame things on when the public gets angry. They have somebody to blame things on when the government does bad things. They have a branch. Hey, you elected them. And another 4 more years, another 3 more years, another 2. You can unelect them. You can elect somebody else. And that takes the focus from the people who actually enact the government in the first place, and that's the legislature. See, because the president, he's just there to preside. He's a president over the government that the legislature enacts. This is why all those campaign promises, they can't actually do them because they don't have the power of legislation. They can just sign the legislation that Congress already agreed to. And this is why, in my opinion, the legislature should pick the president. They should pick who they're most willing to work with, not a popularity contest of the people. That's the way it's worked for thousands of years. Go look at the Roman Catholic Church. Do you think Roman Catholics get to decide the Pope, or do you think the cardinals do? Do you even think that the priests get to vote? And speaking of Catholics, Roman Catholics, this past year after George Floyd, Trump declaring himself the president of law and order, orders federal officers to tear gas and violently remove peaceful protesters from a church, from a Catholic church, so that he could go over there for a photo op. If you don't know, A church is recognized in law as its own form of government. That's why when the United States military was going after Noriega, when he ran into a Catholic church, nobody go up to the door and knock. They wouldn't even go up to the door and knock. Because it's its own sovereign government. And Trump, declaring himself the president of law and order. We all know what happened on Monday, June 1st, where Trump tear gassed a bunch of peaceful protesters to clear his way to go over to a church. He did not tell anybody that he was going to this church. He did not inform anyone. And I just wish to read to you what church means from a Black's Law Dictionary. The religious society founded and established by Jesus Christ to receive, preserve, and propagate his doctrines and ordinances. Goes on to say, community of Christians united under one form of government by the profession of the same faith and the observance of the same rituals and ceremonies. Now, that's interesting because even the law observes the church as a separate form of government, as a sovereign form of government from the government which they operate. Think about that. Think about the symbolism behind that. Because Trump basically declared himself president of law and order, and I'm guessing the one true beautiful law that he's talking about is his law. And that's just a presumption on my part. He basically shot at a congregation of people who were peacefully assembling at a church and invaded a sovereign government. Now, that's just my take on it. You might have a different opinion. I know that there are a lot of church leaders out there praising what Trump did, but I can guarantee you if Trump showed up with the military at the doorsteps of their church and started shooting tear gas at a congregation in their home, they probably wouldn't feel the same way.
So I was already stunned and shocked and deeply, deeply offended that they had taken what had become holy ground and had been holy ground for 200 years and literally desecrated it, turned it into not a metaphorical battleground, but a literal battleground with those officers and those heavily armed, and just the aggression and the hostility and the innocent protesters.
I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters. The destruction of innocent life and the spilling of innocent blood is an offense to humanity and a crime against God. One law and order, and that is what it is. One law. We have one beautiful law. And once that is restored and fully restored.
Well, Jesus was very clear that God is far less interested in the show of our prayers than God is in the ethical way that we live our lives and how we treat our fellow human beings created in God's image. And so that was a sharp rebuke to all of us, people like me in leadership who lead prayers, to anyone with privilege and authority, anyone who would dare to substitute the trappings of religion for the actual practice of it.
All right, on the real, here's what's up. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a business practice. Legislatures go up to the Capitol building, and they take the statue, the word statue, they just add that one little symbol that they hung Jesus up on, a cross. And just add one cross to that word, it's a statue that they tell you is law. Real law is written on your heart. The true law of God, do no harm. That's it. It's not that hard, and it's just that simple. But for some reason, our society today has become real complex. Okay? Now, if you don't believe this, if you don't believe that they go to the Capitol building to conspire on writing law and governing the public, tell me what their business is. If their business is not to conspire on how to govern you, let me know. what you believe their business is. Because it's that simple. Any way you wish to break it down, you got a bunch of people going, getting together, talking with each other about how do we control other people. And that's what it's all about. Sorry, it's coming at the end. God just put it on my heart, so I had to do it. Hope you like the shirt. Peace. My final plea with you, with my fellow man, with my fellow woman, with my fellow American, is that we don't fight with each other. We don't fight over these gang colors. That's my plea. I believe that something's going to happen, and I don't know where Trump's going to stay in the White House. And my main belief for this is the fact that I believe they're trying to get us to fight with each other. And I just hope and pray that that's not what happens. I just hope and pray that you and I are civil enough to get through this without any violence. All we have to do is not fight each other. That's it. Anyways, I am Just Conspiracy, and I just wish to conspire with other good people of the planet to leave a better world for future generations than the world we all grew up in. Peace.
Imperfect vessels to do his perfect work, because I am an imperfect vessel. President Trump's an imperfect vessel. We all are, really.
I mean, do you remember that soundbite, that horrendous moment when he was arguing with the Pope? Who gets in a dust-up with the Pope on the campaign trail? And he's yelling, "I'm a Christian and I'm proud of it." I thought, that's got to be God's man.
I am fascinated by the rhetoric.